There are those who see drawing as the art of deliberately pouring out one's heart in the form of lines, a passionate movement of the hand. Hello and welcome to ArtHouse. I'm Neota Igbe. Today, we focus on this art form. It's considered the foundation of every other form of art. In other words, if you can't draw, whether in your mind or on a surface, your art may never be complete. I wonder if you agree.
Our wordsmith this week is from Blessed Paul. It's called Smile. It's not a journey of 1,000 miles. It won't even take a while. An expression of the heart that conceals fear, like a mascara permits no tear. It doesn't require a perfect set of teeth to elate the spirit to a perfect feat. It sweeps sorrow off its feet and gives joy a perfect seat. A well-shaped oval pink lip is not a yardstick, nor a dimple or two for it to stick. Adds more beauty to the face than a lipstick and wipes off sorrow from the heart like a mop stick. It's a perfect facial makeup. A saddened spirit it wakes up, a broken heart it mends up, and a weak body it builds up. It is a merchant's secret, the salesgirl's charm. It uplifts the spirit and causes no harm.
The heart of the artist is poured out when he or she steps into the studio. In whatever medium they decide to communicate, they open themselves up for the world to see all that's been allowed in over time. We visited one artist, Jacqueline Swari, and what a trip we had.
Remarkable creations done with a pen. Then comes the one who's put these lines together. Jacqueline Swari comes down the stairs. Not even a slight nod to the camera, and gets into the business of getting to finish up a marvelous piece. She settles in to perfect a work she did not just start. Line upon line, tiny strokes, dark and overlaying each other, meticulously outlining and telling a story that only Jacqueline can explain.
With my own philosophy, that lines, like connecting lines and experiences, you know how they say a person's experiences ultimately form their character. So with my own work, the lines, the kind of webbing that I do with my shading ultimately form the finished work. And so when you come up close to the work, you can experience the individual lines. Like, it's intentional. So that's why I don't try to make my shading smooth or anything, so that you can see that these lines are like a metaphor. You can say, okay, the comparison of the lines, you can say this person's story is like showing on her skin, and then this is what is reflecting who she has ended up becoming as an individual. Yes. So the lines and the form of my shading kind of help me express that with my work. That's why I choose drawing as my main medium of expression, because I feel like if I was going to paint over something, I would just do a brush stroke, and I mean, you lose all those fine details I'm talking about in the brush strokes.
The journey began at an early age of 5. Torn between multiple options, the art eventually won, and she went on to study same with specialty in painting at the University of Port Harcourt in River State. Her love for the dark hues led her to picking the pen as a tool.
I started drawing as a child, and I used to draw with pencils and crayons and all that. And then when I got into secondary school, I started using pen, blue pen. And that's what I used to scribble in my notebooks and all that. But then when I got into the university, they said pen was not the traditional thing for drawing. So I went back to using pencils. And I found out that I really like contrast. I really like the dark and the light, you know, the contrast of light and shade. Like, I really love it, especially on the skin. And I used to try to achieve that with charcoal, pastels. But the thing with charcoal and pastels is that, like I said, this my fine line detailing it gets lost in the whole, because when you finish shading, everything blurs together and it becomes smooth, sort of. So I tried to, use pencil strokes to, individually, very sharp pencil strokes to individually differentiate these things. And at the end of the day, everything will blur back again and those details will be lost. And so one day I was preparing for an exhibition and I decided to just use the black pen. It was just chance. And I used the black pen and I found out that, number one, the strokes were individual. Number two, the contrast was there. And that's how I started doing, because it's like I got to eat my cake and have it. The thing I wanted with the darkness, I got it. What I wanted with the strokes, I got it. So that's how I started using the black.
What led to the choice of drawing instead?
I feel like you're able to infuse a lot of information into drawing. So for me, it's more expressive than painting and sculpture. I'm sure some people will argue with me about that, but yeah, that's my own opinion about drawing. And then there's also this thing I do. There's a technique I use when I'm shading. I call it layering. I have this philosophy behind my strokes that each line represents your experiences as a human being. Your experiences, because people are generally formed by the experiences, and when they're layered upon each other, experiences ultimately form your character as a person. So in my work, if you zoom into my work or if you look at them closely, which is one of the reasons why I like doing them really large, you can see these details of lines, almost like web-like things going on. Yes, it's hatching, but it's like a very, intentional form of hatching that I use with the shading, so that you can now kind of see this person's story through the work.
Indeed, as many individuals as there are, so are the volumes of experiences that need to be shared.
I'm very, very interested in, capturing those moments in a person's expression that it's almost like it's an intimate moment between the person in themselves, but the expression is obvious, sort of. I don't know how to explain it more than that. When you meet a person and you're communicating with the person, there's body language that their body is saying, but they're not saying with their mouth. And as a person, I'm more interested in a person's body language. I want to understand what your body is saying as opposed to what your mouth is saying.
What about those times you're not able to capture the moment?
In my work, there's some models who are reoccurrent. Some people are very good at masking their body language. So you could take 1 million photographs of them and you won't be able to catch them in that vulnerable moment, where you can really tell that, okay, this is how this person is feeling, this is what this person is thinking. And people are very good at, a lot of us are, in fact, in life, you're basically trained to be an actor. If you try to show some certain emotions, they'll say, don't do that, don't show that expression, it's too makes you look weak, makes you appear angry, makes you, so most people have learned the art of just masking their emotions and their expressions.
She has been practicing art for 10 years, and within that time, she discovered herself again and the direction she wants to go. She chose the method of drawing instead of pointillism, which is using dots to create images. She claims that kind of patience is not a virtue she has, but each work takes its own toll.
In my own, I use lines. So lines are used to do the hatching, the cross hatching and all that. But in pointillism, there's nothing like that. It's just dots and dots and dots.
In her words, a whole lot of people inspired and mentored her. But some artists at the National Theatre stand out.
I did my IT at the Universal Studios of Art in Ikamu in Lagos under the tutelage of Mr. Abiodun Olako, Mr. Edosa Ogigo, Mr. Wallace Ejor, Mr. Joshua Mesuronye, so many people like that. They made me love drawing. Like, that's where I literally fell in love with drawing, in that studio. And they do a lot of training of IT students, teach people how to draw, and it's all for free. And one of the things that really inspired me about doing my IT there was the fact that they made us, I went there I was majoring in painting, and I went there to learn painting, and I spent 6 months drawing. And at some point I would get frustrated and say, why am I drawing every day? I came to learn painting. And one day Mr. Joshua said, you have to understand how to draw first before you can paint. You have to see before you can paint. And that was like a turning point for me.
And so, her tiny strokes, overlaying each other, gradually but surely capture and experience the emotions in the eyes and the experiences of the subject, so that the viewer can relate and possibly tell it in words.
The pandemic has impacted everything. Our friends around the world have had to come up with unique ways and new associations that have helped them to continue their passion of creating great pieces.
We have some more drawings on our Works of Art segment today. Let's begin with this one called Unheard Voices by Jimo David. It's done with charcoal pencil on paper. Then Stare of Hope is a charcoal on paper work done by Olaiton. Then Ayodeji says he's trying his hands on this hyper-realistic work. It's called Expectant. Alika Africa is a pen on paper work done by Frank. He said we should learn to tell our stories. And this graphite charcoal and pencil on paper work is called Bring It On by Vitalis. Why Vitalis asking people to bring it on? Self-confidence is what Chigozie Victor is pushing for with his ballpoint pen on needpoint paper. While the other artists are still paying tribute to Chadwick Boseman with this work done by Lukani Pam with biro on paper. He says tribute to T'Challa. Then Richard Ben Art says Adil Black Panther is done with biro. And this graphite pencil on paper work is called So Long, done by Precious Gifts. Then finally, Adeloye is paying tribute to our very own songstress with this charcoal work of Tiwa Savage, titled Kuruba, is done with white charcoal on black paper. And those are your works of art for this week. We do encourage you to keep them coming.
After the break, we go to our online platform to see some of the works created by some of you.
What's good about writing is that when you write novels or fiction, people can see that the problems in one region are similar to the problems in another region. When a plan does not go right, you plot again. One day, you will succeed. Damilola Adewale says, "The prices make me dizzy. That's just it. I buy the materials, not minding the prices. But some of the improvisations I have done are awesome. I have turned charcoal to black acrylic paint, gum stain fabric and old carton boxes into canvas, and the results are wonderful. As artists, we have to find the light in everything." And from Philip Samuel, "Goodness, I just noticed that today when I wanted to buy some materials." Austin A. Young says, "Two of my colleagues have mastered the art of making acrylic colors, which I buy at discounted prices. It has helped me to keep going." Frame price has increased tremendously. I had to increase the cost of my recent paintings. It's a message from Elizabeth Oluwatui. At a point, due to the ban on traveling and importation issues, to even get resin for my pieces was a major challenge. Frank and Wacha. Jay Chibuza says, "I had to shut down my gallery because the market is slow and the collectors complain that my works are expensive." And finally, Tomoni Ganagana says, "Colossal, especially in Warri Delta State, where the price was high even before COVID-19 happened and art appreciation is low."
Their drawings look the same, but each one bears a unique mark, or if you like, signature, that reveals the force behind the motion of the hand across paper, canvas, cloth, and/or all of these mediums and more. ArtHouse experience doesn't have to end when the show's not on television. Interact with us on any of our social media platforms. See any edition of ArtHouse on Channels TV's YouTube page. Send your works of art to ArtHouse on Channels Television by joining the group on Facebook. We are everywhere.
Next week on ArtHouse, we see the Lasgidi Cultural Arts at the Freedom Park in Lagos. Plus, more online creations. That and more in a moment.
Do you know that you, and indeed every human, can draw? The strokes of the pen or pencil may be light or dark, firm or wavy, but the idea is to share deep secrets and experiences buried in the lines. Do check out our social media platforms until we meet again in the house next time. But guess what? Someone will be back. Bye-bye.